If you watched and you're with us now, you want to know more. If you didn't watch and you're with us now, you really want to know more. What am I talking about? The fourth Republican presidential debate. And to help us get to what you want to know, our political panel joins us. They are Ashley Etienne and Kevin Sheridan. Ashley, as you might remember, is a CBS News political contributor and former communications director for Vice President Kamala Harris and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Kevin is a former spokesman for the Republican National Committee and former senior advisor to the Romney-Ryan 2012 presidential campaign. Kevin, since you are the Republican at this table, your thoughts about whether what happened tonight in the long term will matter, and if so, who will it matter most to?
I think Ron DeSantis probably is the biggest takeaway from the night for me. He was speaking, I think, in a way that was for positioning himself as speaking for the voters versus the donor class. And the donor class is very unpopular in many parts of the Republican Party, and that's where they all started jumping on Nikki Haley. And she's gotten a lot of momentum with money. She got AFP's endorsement, obviously. So she's
Americans for Prosperity, right?
So she's looking like she's coming on strong. If Ron DeSantis didn't have his moment tonight, and we'll find out from the clips that run online, the memes that come out of this, the reactions from the base, if he doesn't come out of this debate, and it doesn't happen for him in Iowa, it's over.
Right. So if I hear you, what you're saying is strategically for DeSantis, the imperative tonight was to blunt that perception of momentum and get back in, if not the driver's seat, near the front.
Yeah, and I thought he did a pretty good job. He had a good debate. Nikki Haley has had 3 great debates where she's really come on strong. I didn't think that she had the opportunity to be as strong as she was tonight. She parried a little bit, but she did take some real hits, and the Republican base is going to remember some of the things that were said about her tonight.
Ashley, your impressions?
I do agree. I think Nikki Haley took a lot of incoming, but I think it's because she's the strongest of all of them. I mean, I was very impressed with how she handled herself. She actually looked like the only adult on the stage. It was almost masterful how she kind of took a step back and let the boys fight it out, and then let Christy do her bidding, and it made her look very presidential and big in that room, in that space, in a way that the others sort of did not. I disagree with Kevin. I don't think DeSantis was impressive at all. I don't remember him, don't remember anything he said. I'm not really sure why he's still in the race, other than the fact that he actually has a lot of money. But he just was not impressive. And, Vivek is, he's a proxy for Trump. Chris Christie, I thought, had a strong debate. I would love to see him to continue to remain in the debate. I mean, I thought he made a really great point, which is, the most important person was not there and was not discussed. And I think that was the other big takeaway, not just that Nikki Haley was strong, but that there was not a full-throated discussion about Donald Trump. There have been screaming headlines from the New York Times to the Washington Post to CBS about what this gentleman, for lack of a better way of describing it, gentleman is preparing to do in his second term. And it's incredibly radical, from weaponizing DOJ to go after his political opponents and anyone who's disagreed with him, to almost reversing and undermining the Constitution. That was never really discussed. And I think the American people are owed a conversation about what Donald Trump's going to do if he becomes a president. That's the part I thought was missing. And I hope that Chris Christie stays in the race, because he's the only one that continues to raise that issue.
Kevin, your response to that?
Well, we're not going to get a discussion about that if Donald Trump ends up running away with Iowa and running away with New Hampshire, because I don't think there will be another debate. There won't be another debate.
Do you think anything tonight, Kevin, changed the prospects of Trump running away, possibly with Iowa, and winning heavily in New Hampshire?
No, I still think we don't know what's going to happen in Iowa. I still think there's a path for either Ron DeSantis to win Iowa or to show very well, take that momentum. People love a comeback story. So if he becomes the comeback kid, he's going to get a lot more attention. The negative sentiment around him has been going on for a year now. It's not good. If he can pull something out in Iowa, that's his only chance.
We've been hoping for him to pull something out for a while now. Can I just say one thing? I think this is a little provocative. I'm not sure that anyone do it, but there are no more rules in politics anymore. Post Donald Trump, I don't believe there are any more rules. The fact that Nikki Haley stood there and said that she's willing to take any money and any support from anyone, I just wonder if she's willing to, if not her, some outside apparatus would encourage Democrats to caucus with her in Iowa and New Hampshire. Because I was talking to my Republican friends, and their point they made was this is like Groundhog's Day, and no one knows what's going to break in order to change the dynamics. Who's going to be Bill Murray in this dynamic? So I just wonder if that could really change it. If we could see a situation where either her or an outside apparatus could encourage Democrats to come in who don't want to see Donald Trump win and caucus with her in Iowa or New Hampshire. It's a little provocative, but there are no more rules. Why not try it?
The problem with that theory is Democrats want Donald Trump to be the nominee.
Right,
exactly. Some do. Some do.
Democrats want
They're going to come out and vote for
some
him.
do.
Kevin, I want to drill down on what you said about Governor DeSantis, because I think it's worth understanding what you meant, and I think I do. You said some of the things he criticized Nikki Haley about, establishmentarian, China, transgenderism, are very specific words in a very specific subset of Iowa. Evangelical Republicans, activist Republicans who are still on the fence. Is that what you were getting at?
Absolutely. Base Republicans are going to react to those statements.
In ways that maybe not be readily or instantaneously detectable.
I detected it immediately. I thought when he started going down some of those lanes, I thought, well, she's got a real problem with that, with some voters. And Iowa's the place to test that out, obviously. New Hampshire's going to be much, much more friendly to her. So if she can get, if she can finish third in Iowa, in a strong way, or even second, then it's over for Ron DeSantis probably. But she's going to have to take that into New Hampshire and have, her best showing there.
One other thing I want to get quickly from you, Kevin. Trump keeps leaning into his massive lead. And in the polling data, he does have a massive lead. Is that a strategic mistake? Because if DeSantis or Haley get within 10, do they get the perception of closing this gap so rapidly and have this comeback narrative?
Yeah, there was always a comeback story, right? Every single time. Look, Donald Trump owes his huge lead, his 50-point lead, to the prosecutions. Ever since they got, especially the one in New York, Republican voters immediately said that's unfair, that's not legitimate, and immediately swung behind him. Whether or not that's real support or just sentiment showing up in the polls, we won't know until the voting starts.
And Ashley, very quick. Still think Nikki Haley, if she becomes the nominee, is tougher for Biden to beat or any Democratic nominee than Donald Trump?
Absolutely.
That's very quick.
Very quick. You asked for it. I gave it to you.
Ashley Etienne, Kevin Sheridan, we thank you very much.